We've all been there. That moment when your partner says something that immediately gets your back up. You're left with the instinctive feeling of being under attack and the impulse to defend yourself. Stay tuned to learn how to make sense of defensiveness and what you can do about it in your relationship. Hi everyone, I'm Laura Brown from Heart and Oak Therapy, supporting better, brighter lives. We're therapists who do regular videos on mental wellness and give you practical ideas and tips to make your life happier and more fulfilling. So hit the subscribe button to keep in the loop. First and foremost, you might be wondering, what is defensiveness? Well, it's simply the impulse to defend yourself against a perceived attack or threat by another person. One thing I want to clarify here is that this is different than defending yourself against an actual insult, attack, or abusive behavior. This video is really about those moments where you respond defensively to things that aren't intended to be mean or hurtful. Defensiveness is often talked about as a problematic way to deal with conflict in relationships because it can play out as a counterattack, striking back against the other person. Responding with defensiveness can be a problem when it gets in the way of hearing the true intention behind another person's message and amplifying the misunderstanding or conflict by hurting the other person back. This can lead to a nasty mess that's really difficult to resolve. Defensiveness can be unique to each person and can be influenced by a whole host of factors. How we interpret that message can be influenced by how the other person presents it, their tone, choice of words, body language, and the environment they choose to deliver that message in. And we use a whole host of intel to interpret messages, which is why it is so important to consider the full context when you notice yourself responding defensively. Beyond how the other person delivers their message, the way in which you interpret it can also be influenced by what is happening for you presently. Things like your present mood, your energy level, and pre-existing sensitivities can all contribute to how you interpret what someone is saying to you. For example, I am 100% guilty of getting extremely hangry at times. You've heard this concept before, the brutal reality that some people experience when their blood sugar drops and they're left in a terrible state of anger and hunger. When I forget to eat and find myself feeling this way, it is incredibly hard for me not to get defensive. For me, in these situations, even though someone like Will might express something from a place of sincere care and concern, I can hear it as an attack. And given the state I'm in, it's likely for me to be kind of nasty in return. Honestly, some of our worst fights have been in large part because of my unbridled anger. In addition to how you're feeling in the present moment, how and what someone says to you can also be perceived as an attack depending on pre-existing sensitivities you have. Perhaps it reminds you of something you have felt criticized for in the past, either by the person giving the message or someone else entirely. Or it could touch on something that you struggle with. I'm going to use a really silly example from my own relationship to highlight a sensitivity that I noticed coming up when Will has made comments about me burping, of all things. Now, I want to make one thing clear. Will gets pretty grossed out by burping. I don't know why exactly, he just does. And I have a love for fizzy drinks, and that gas has got to go somewhere. Now, here's one more important piece of context for you. You may not have known, but at the time of recording this video, I'm about 5 months pregnant. And since getting pregnant, I've become a bit more sensitive as to whether or not my partner still finds me attractive, because my body is changing so much. In no way has Will done anything to suggest he finds me unattractive, and I truly didn't even realize this was an issue for me until he commented one night on my burping. Usually when he would tease me with a sarcastic look, letting me know he's not really feeling my burping, I would tease him back or rub it in his face and then just let it go. We have a pretty open relationship and we don't tend to take offense when we call each other out on the gross things the other person does. But the other night, I perceived it as a criticism and became super defensive in response, arguing that he was being rude and mean for saying anything given my pregnant condition. He was left a bit flabbergasted and responded with a bit of defensiveness himself. And before we knew it, we had a big old misunderstanding on our hands. I knew that I needed to take a step back, and when I did, I realized how sensitive I was about this. Through expressing the reason behind why I was offended by him, Will clarified that his comment did not reflect his level of attraction for me. Talking about it helped put my fears and sensitivities to rest and feel more connected and secure. Just like in my example, be honest with yourself about how and why you feel hurt, and consider how fair it is for you to make sense of things in that way in the context at hand. Maybe it's helpful to keep it to yourself and think through it privately, or perhaps it could be best to talk it through with your partner, like I did. And you know what? You might have a totally valid reason to feel defensive. And so checking in with yourself around this creates an opportunity to investigate it further. Whenever defensiveness comes up for you, you have an opportunity to determine whether or not the person delivering the message truly intended to criticize or attack you. You can ask yourself, why did I interpret this as an attack? Or why did I feel offended? What did the other person say or do that had me responding with this feeling? In finding the answers to these questions, you can then inform the other person of your interpretation in an intentional way. This can be done without a counterattack, but rather a clear, direct acknowledgement of why and how you came to feel the way that you did. Of course, this is an idealistic response, and one that may not feel all that accessible in the heat of the moment. However, even having this type of conversation after the fact can be useful because it offers you an opportunity to reflect, to be curious, and be vulnerable in a way that can lead to greater understanding and trust between the two of you. It also requires a sense of emotional safety from your partner to provide you with the space to truly be vulnerable in that way. That's a crucial component in doing this kind of work, and if it's missing, it's a whole other ball game, which I'll try to address in a future video. When you take steps to become aware of your own defensiveness, it opens you up to hearing the message in the way it was intended to be heard. And guess what? It might be totally appropriate to defend yourself. This work offers you and your partner an opportunity to look at how you communicate and what could be done differently to avoid misunderstandings or hurt feelings. It also gives you space to really consider how the two of you want to treat one another when things are going well as when conflict and misunderstandings develop. And now, turning it over to you, the Heart and Oak community. What has your experience been with defensiveness? Are there certain things that you notice yourself getting defensive about in your relationship? What have you done to respond differently in these situations, if appropriate? We'd love to hear about it in the comment section below. If this video has been interesting or helpful, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button below. For more helpful videos related to therapy and mental wellness, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell notification icon to make sure you stay in the loop. Take care until next time, and keep doing the things that help you live a better, brighter life.